series was created with a simple goal in mind: to bring to the table high-level executives, successful entrepreneurs, and just all-around inspiring human beings. Not just focusing on their success, but more important, shining a spotlight on the road they traveled to get there. Now, this week's guest, I don't know where to start because she has so many accolades, and these are the stories I really like to shine a spotlight on. Somebody who came from nothing and went on to do incredible things. She is a singer, songwriter, author, mother, trailblazing radio personality. I can go on and on for days and days, but please welcome to this week's Power Move Makers podcast, Miss Jones, AKA Jonesy. What up, Jonesy?
Hey, Prez. I'm like, who's he talking about? Thank you. That was quite the introduction.
You deserve it, Jonesy. You deserve it. I mean, you know,
Thank you.
It's so crazy because I love these interviews because first and foremost, it's a conversation. It's talking to an old friend. Like, so let's start there.
Yeah.
But Jonesy, you were really, really a trail. And I didn't mention this in the beginning. You were the first Black female to have a morning show named after you. That's huge.
Yeah.
Like literally, that is huge. So I want to go backwards because I try to encourage as many of our listeners or people who watch this on YouTube. It doesn't matter where you start. It really doesn't. If you have a dream, if you have a desire, if you're willing to put in the work, your life can literally go from nothing and blossom into something that you couldn't even have imagined. And this is the case for you. So let's go back to the beginning real quick. Mm-hmm. From Queens.
Astoria.
What does the family structure look like for you?
So I had my mom, my dad, my two older sisters, and from an early age, I always knew that I wanted to sing. I didn't know what that looked like because I didn't see anyone on TV that necessarily looked like me, except for an occasional guest spot by Lola Falana on the Carol Burnett show or the Ed Sullivan show. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so my mom was an education nut, like an education stickler. And I think because she graduated first in her high school class and was on her way to Spelman and then got pregnant prom night. And they made her get married and she couldn't go to college. And like her life was just, so she threw all of that into her daughters. And I was more musical. I didn't want to necessarily be the scholar or the teacher. But so we got past that. And I just started throwing myself into talent shows, and teachers would notice me and give me a little extra time to work on music and stuff. But it really didn't happen for me until I got into junior high school. And the Black music teacher called my mom because she had gone to the Fame High School. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go, but my mom wouldn't let me go because she didn't want me throwing away my life on music. She didn't want me traveling from Astoria, Queens, all the way up to Harlem, 135th Street. And the teacher called, told my mom that she should give me a shot, that I have something special. My mom let me go. And I think that's where the Miss Jones story began before I even realized that it was starting. It was a lot of, at Syracuse, I went to Syracuse, but both my sisters had gone there before me. So that was like our family thing. But I didn't realize all the training and all the studying and all the researching that would go into being a full-blown musician. And I learned several techniques. I learned different types of music. I was able to learn how to sing in French and German, Italian, and every language you could imagine. Wow. But I wanted to sing R&B. So I did what I did to graduate out with my music degree. And as fate would have it, after I graduated, like a week later, my mom died. And that just that sent my world into a tailspin because I was going to go to Howard University for my master's in music. But when she died, I didn't see a way. I didn't even talk to my sisters about it. I just didn't see a way and didn't show up to Howard. And that's when I think that was another turning point, because when you feel like you have nothing to lose, Prez, you do whatever. And so I walked up to Dougie Fresh on the street, just started singing for him. And Doug put me on. He was like, I like you. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with you, but I don't want to let you go. So he took me on the road with him when he was on tour with MC Hammer and all that. And we rocked out until the streets came on with Ron G and the mixtapes, and we created that sound. And go ahead, I'm gonna let you jump in.
No, because I want to go backwards for a second, right?
Yeah.
Because you just skipped over so many great parts for me. In terms of your singing, you say you come from a family and you had a mother who was very much into academia. She wanted you guys to go to school, get your degrees, all of that stuff. Where does the singing come from? Is there anybody in your family was singing always, even though she wanted you guys to excel in academia? Was it music? Was it always a part of your life? Like, how does something like that come into a young girl from Queens and you from such a young age know that this is my love? This is the thing that I love more than anything else in the world, and I want to pursue it.
I think I use singing to get attention and to get out of trouble. And it was like a manipulation. As I'm thinking about it now, I'm like, how did I knew that so there was also a lot of alcohol in our home growing up, and not a lot of partying, but occasional partying with aunts and stuff coming over. And my mom would call me into the living room to sing mommy's record or go put on mommy's record and perform it. And I felt good because everybody's loving this little girl that's like singing like a grown woman and she's doing moves and stuff. And so I think maybe that had something to do with it. I'm figuring this out right now as I'm talking to you. That might have had a lot to do with it, yeah.
Okay, you mentioned LaGuardia High School, also known as
Music and Art. Yeah.
Everybody around the country, around the world who is listening to this, that is the same high school that the TV show and movie Fame was based upon. When you went to this high school, were there any other people who we may know that was in the high school with you at that same time?
So yeah, Jennifer Aniston was there. And
Jennifer Aniston, like Friends, Jennifer Aniston? Wow.
And she was, I don't want to use the word fat because I hate that, but she was like very thick back then. And I only knew who she was. This is crazy because her dad used to play on my mom's favorite soap opera. He played a character named Victor Kiriakis. And I saw her last name and I was like, are you? So that's how I knew her. And then Chastity Bono, Sonny and Cher's daughter, now son, she went there. We all knew about her, but she was kind of always to herself. And then Charisse from Changing Faces, do you mind if I stroke you up? I don't. Actually, Charisse and Cassandra, both of the girls from Changing Faces, we all were there together. Cassandra was my cheerleading captain, and Charisse simply was my friend. And we've been best friends we're still best friends to this day, so.
To all my movers, if you love educational and inspirational content just like this, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. But most important, if you know anybody making power moves just like you, share it. Now back to the video. Wow. How, and I don't want to stay on the subject for too long, but when I think of music and arts, I think of Fame. And by thinking of Fame, I think of kids being in the hallway and they're singing, like not a traditional high school. In real life, was it You just named a number of people that have gone on and have done great things. We all know them. What's in real life, was it like that? You would just walk past classrooms and people are singing or acting, or they're going down the hall and they're doing these little performances?
Always.
Are you serious?
Absolutely, especially in the lower level, in the basement, where it was the drama department, because the teachers understood that creativity can pop up at any given moment. So if there were a group of us, as long as we were doing something to our talent or to our, they would walk by us. They didn't ask us if we were supposed to be in class. They didn't ask us where we were supposed to be. If they saw someone walking up and down, rehearsing a monologue, they didn't bother them. There was a huge respect of the arts, and more focus, I say, on the arts than the academics, but the respect for the way an artist creates and processes and gets in their zone is what I think is what taught us how to get in the zone, and that is okay, and that things don't necessarily come to you when they're supposed to, but you got to grab that moment. So if I needed to leave a classroom and go into the girls' bathroom and go over something, I was able to do. It was a very free, I don't want to say free fall, but freewheeling school with emphasis on talent and creativity. Nicki Minaj went there much later than I. The Marlon Wayans, I think, went there. Omar Epps went there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who came out of that school. And that's why I was just, and I didn't even originally intend to ask you that question, but I'm thinking she had to be in there with some people who we knew. Can I ask you something now? And this is kind of out of context of where I want to take the interview, but it could possibly help somebody. You, again, come from a family that stressed academics, but you're clearly a creative person. Even just hearing you a second ago describe how it was encouraged for students to express your creativity. It might not come when you're sitting and you're taking a test and you're put on the spot. It can come at any given moment.
Right.
As a parent now, and for any parents who are out there, you lived in both worlds. Like you know what it is for somebody to be like, this is the proper way to achieve success, meaning go to school, get your education. And you also are somebody who went a very non-traditional route and achieved high-level success. What is your advice for parents that has a young girl or boy who is not as interested in the books, still very bright, still has a lot of potential, but they're just off the beaten path? Do you encourage that? Like, what's the balance?
And I am that parent because my oldest son is in this like top 5 prep boarding school that's like heavy on the academics and but he's a musician. He calls himself Jalen the Rapper. He is self-taught. He does his own videos. He saves his own money to go into the recording studios. So how can I get in the way of that? I'd be a hypocrite. But I also show him the difference in how our lifestyle shifted. When I was in the industry and he was born and he saw the lavish lifestyle. And then when I left the industry and the check slowed down, he saw that. So he understands what he might want his life to look like. And so I just tell him, look at this example. Nothing stays on top forever. You've always got to prepare, and life doesn't wait for you to become a rapper. One day you're going to want to get married. Is it fair for your wife to wait for you to hit it big? And she has to have 2 and 3 jobs just to support the lifestyle that you're accustomed to or that you want. So you have to pay attention to the years going by you and at least set a timeline on how long you're going to give yourself to achieve that goal. Because you and I both know it never comes when we want it to come. Never. And life will pass you by. I was 35 before I turned around, and I was great. I had just I was the first Black woman to get morning radio. I was doing well in Philadelphia, but I remembered I forgot to have a baby. Right.
Damn, go ahead, Jonesy.
Because I didn't plan.
These are the conversations I love. Go ahead.
I forgot to have a baby. So the first idiot that, treated me good and I thought was cute and came around at that time, I made that into a situation. But I don't want to. So I love my son, not necessarily his dad. But again, it was because I didn't prepare and no one told me it's all right to chase your dreams, but don't ball all of your dreams up and forget about your real life.
So many gems. And I thank you for even sharing it and just being so transparent and open, because these are the things people need to hear. It's okay. Go chase your dreams. But there's real life in this somewhere.
Life is right. Life is still going. You still getting older. You're missing out. You're missing out on certain opportunities in life because you're so focused on that. So if I had to do it over again, I would have paid more attention to the personal achievements and not so much the professional ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have planned things out, or at least tried to plan them out a little better. But I don't know how that would have worked out. But for my son, I'm on him. He's going to have a life. It won't be consumed with being a rapper. It won't even be consumed with being a doctor. It won't be consumed. I want him to have a piece of everything. And once you have a piece and you try everything, then somewhere down the line, you can figure out what you're really passionate about and what works within your reality.
Beautiful. Well said. Jonesy, another reason I wanted to have you on this program, I love your story. And the more I started to think about it, I said she is what Power Move Makers is all about. And what I mean by that is you've seen the highest of highs, you've seen the lowest of lows. You have made plenty of money. You have made very little money. You have gotten jobs and you have been fired multiple times. But you always find a way to keep moving forward. And in my opinion, and I'd like to know what you think about this, I believe the winners, the people who everybody in the world looks at and they want to emulate and, that's my idol. I want to be like this person. I always tell people all the time, those people, they're no more talented than you. They are no more, they're no more human than you. They just never, ever give up.
They got a hell of a work ethic.
Them down, they get back up.
Yeah. They got that work ethic.
They got
that work ethic. That work ethic will win every time.
I got a good friend, Ed Hennings, who has this quote, and I've stolen it from him. He said, "Nothing works like the work," and it's just that simple. You can have the talent. You can be born with all the gifts in the world.
Lots of people are.
Yes, they are. But if you don't have that work ethic, it's over.
And you worked alongside one of the best. I heard Diddy tell me this one time. I said, "Why are you up so early in the morning and going so hard all throughout the day?" And he said something about time don't, or money don't read clocks, or something like that. And I said, if he can do that, he gets up, he runs, and he does this, and he changes into his office attire. Then he runs a business, and he goes in the studio, and then he has his kids. He had his kids coming into the office that particular day. He was doing it all. Who are we not to?
I think people, and I don't talk about my personal history enough on this program, interestingly enough, because I like to keep it focused on our guests. But you just spoke about Puff. And I don't think people understand, his success, it's not accidental. it didn't happen by chance. He didn't win again and again. Like, you might get lucky once. You might even get lucky twice. But to build the businesses at the scales he has built them, whether it's in records or fashion or liquor or now with Revolt television.
And even in college, when he was promoting parties in college, who's doing that in college? Who's thinking like an entrepreneur and with little resources, but putting the vision all together? Like, that's like bona fide boss shit, like, to me.
No, his true talent is his work ethic. I tell people that all the time. Yes,
I agree with that.
Great in all of these, but his real talent is he's going to outwork you, period.
That's it. And even if you can only do a quarter of the work that man does, you're likely to be successful.
And that's just the God's honest truth. It is just the God's honest truth. So it's crazy, and this goes into a whole other conversation. But when I look at people and they are throwing them under the bus and say what you want. Right. Here's what I do know, because I don't know about any of it. What I do know is whatever he got, he worked for it. He worked his butt off.
I agree. Let me say something else.
Go ahead.
Sometimes. So for me, I took the 12-year break because sometimes for women, it's a little bit more difficult for us to keep working at that high of a pace when we have children. Because even if we're married, somebody's got to work. And unless you have someone to come into the home and take care of the kids so that you can keep operating on that high of a level, you got to take a step back. And that kind of slowed me down. And then, I've always had my ongoing health issue with the tumor in my jaw, and that slowed me down as well. But women are not given the same room to raise their children. It's almost like, and the pandemic has shown that, has highlighted that actually, that we have to forego one for the other. And for me, it didn't turn off. Like, that passion and that wanting to win, I just wound up putting it into my current situation, which was being at home with the children. So that made me put all that stuff into making sure my kids I was PTA, I was team mom for football, team mom for wrestling. If I'm gonna be home, I'm gonna be the best stay at home there is, and I'm gonna cover all. But I became Miss Jones' mom. I put the same formula into being a mom, and now I think my kids are happy. I believe that they're successful, but I know had I still been running around to radio stations and having to leave home at 4 a.m., getting home and being tired and exhausted and not being able to pour into them, I know that they would be different children and not for the better. So
it was a conscious decision of yours.
It was not. It was not. I fought it because really? I was fighting the radio stations legally. I was suing them because they had fired me without cause. Not Hot 97. People think Hot 97 fired me. Hot 97 never, ever fired me. I actually stayed there an extra year until they could get Big Boy and Cypher, whoever it was, together. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the stations in Philly. And I sued them because I wasn't ready to leave. But then I started my own online radio station. It was successful at first. And then Hurricane Sandy happened and just destroyed all the equipment. It was a 24-hour radio station before people were doing this heavy. And at that point, I said, God, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to show me? Because I was getting advertising. I was the 24-hour talent on the station, working hard, but I felt good. And then that happened. And I said, I'm just going to sit back and see what you're trying to tell me. And, that made me pay attention to my children and the fact that they weren't brushing their teeth properly and the fact that they're not, knowing how to pray at night properly. And, that one has asthma and really being present to who they are and what their needs are. That became a 24-hour time consumption. But it was for the better. It all worked out. I didn't know it then, but 12 years later, I'm glad that I had the time, because now they're older. Well, Jalen's 16, about to be 17, and the last thing he wants is to be in my presence. He might pop in my live occasionally or help me fix a camera, but he's got his own life. So I would have missed all those years with him. And now he's away at boarding school. So I really, am missing. And then he'll be leaving for college soon. So I'm so thankful. Sometimes you don't see, you're going so fast and you're trying to work and achieve so many things that you don't see what's right in front of you, and you don't understand how to turn it off or how to reset and be present to what's right in front of you. So I'm grateful.
Such beautiful gems you just dropped. Jonesy, it's interesting because I preach on this point all the time. One of the things that I credit to being the most, if I can point to anything in my life, anything in Shawn's life that has been the catalyst for any success that I've achieved, is that I listen. That inner voice, that when God is giving signs, when he's talking to me, I'm unable, since I was a boy, since I was a child, I've been unable to ignore it. People go through life and call it the universe. I'm spiritual. I'm a faith-driven man. It's God. When these signs are happening, when your inner spirit is in confusion and things are just not going right and you don't know why, sometimes sit, be still, submit. Yeah. Don't be afraid to just be silent for a sec. God, what are you trying to tell me? And I love the fact, because most people who are career driven, the world looks at them a certain way. There are certain expectations on them, or that they put on themselves.
Right. I was going to say, we put on ourselves. A lot of that also is those people that are career driven, they're making so much money that when that stops, they panic and they start trying to find the next thing and the next thing. Cause you're like, God don't know my bills. God don't know that they about to cut my shit off. So I gotta, I'm not trying to disobey you, God, and I'll listen to you later, but right now I got to go find another check. That also is part of it. That's also part of it. And the pandemic showed everybody that there is no way that you can really, really ever prepare for disaster. Because I don't care if you had $200,000 saved in your account during the last 15 months, it is probably gone.
It's gone.
At least half of it. So some things you just can't prepare for. So don't beat up on yourselves if you get fired or you decide you want to stay home and raise your family, or, don't think that this is the end of the world. The money comes and the money comes back around. It always comes back around. But take a deep breath, like Prez said, and just sit and breathe, because sometimes God talks through other people, or he brings people across your path or in your life. But if you're worried and frantic, and I know it's easier said than done, but I've been there, you're not listening. Nobody can tell you nothing, because you know what bills you got coming up, what obligations you got coming up. But you've got to find a way to steady your mind and know that God didn't bring you that far to let you fail.
Yeah, Jonesy, you are a preacher. Oh my goodness. I love this conversation. And I didn't even know we were going down this road.
Right, because who knew? But this is just, it's really what it is. Because I know I'm not the only one that was. It is. You be so under so much pressure, and you feel, I felt guilty. Like at one point I was like, I'm just going to kill myself because my kids will be better off being raised by their aunts. Like the love that will pour in for them once I'm gone, they'll get over me being gone. They won't even remember, they didn't know me that long, but they will appreciate it was just really wounded conversation and fearful talk. It really was. Because I didn't know anything else except getting up at 3 a.m., driving into New York or driving into Philly, performing, getting paychecks, coming up. That was all I knew. So when I was forced to figure it out, when I got divorced, and I'm like, okay, you're divorced, you got these 2 kids, but you got to make money. And that had never been, that was like a new hybrid model. I didn't know what that looked like. And then when the tumor came back, that I said that, and Hurricane Sandy, I said, yeah, this is God. God gonna have to fix this.
So you go from, and I want to say for 1 second, you go from, and this is the first time I'm ever hearing this real, is this real suicidal thoughts, like legit? Mm-hmm. Or is it just a fleeting thought here or there?
You know, there's nothing fleeting about Jonesy. It's always big. And in that moment, that was all I could see. That was all I could see was the best way to manage this, because you don't, people, like the outside world didn't know, and you don't want to tell, not even just in the music business, but in life overall, you don't like to give people personal information and show them when you're in need.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a pride thing or if that's a smart thing, because when you give the wrong people personal information, it can be used against you. And I didn't know how to tell people that I needed help. Actually, I did tell a few people. I remember reaching out to Mona Scott to see if there were any opportunities with that franchise, because I felt like Love and Hip Hop ain't nothing but Jonesy in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be a spot for me on one of those shows. And there was not. In hindsight, I'm glad that I didn't, because that would not have been a great fit for me at the time, but I panicked. And so I just was making an exit plan for myself.
I'm so happy you share this, because I can tell you, people see the public image. They see what's on the surface. What people don't see, you're human. Like all of the people out there who you look at who are successful, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on in their personal lives.
You never do.
Yeah, you don't know. And I feel so, and it might not be the best analogy, but I'll throw it out there anyway. You know, I see people who are on social media, and we all know that people really fine tune and they craft this image of everything is great. Mm-hmm. And especially for young women.
It's the body.
Instagram models, and they have the perfect body.
The titties and the stomach is perfectly flat and the ass is perfectly round and the legs. And then they're in the Band-Aid dresses at 4:00 in the afternoon with 6-inch heels on. Hair is laid, laces, but baby hair popping all day long, And that's not real life. That might be a small portion of life, but I'm gonna tell you this. That shit it's hard to keep up with that type of pressure. Because if you're really trying to be present to your life, real life ain't a Band-Aid dress and 6-inch heels every day and cocktails at 4. It's just not. And if that is, you need to reevaluate your life, because there's something else you could be doing. I want to touch on something because we kind of moved past it. Mm-hmm. For me, you know what made it extra hard for me to reach out for help is that I was such a bitch when I was on radio, unnecessarily mean to people sometimes, but enough that became part of my makeup.
Yep.
That she's this. So how does this tough shit talking chick that was at the top of the radio chain in not just one market, 2 markets. I was in New York and Philly at the same time. She needs help. Oh, fuck that. Now is our time to, you know what I mean? So I kind of made my bed. And I said, you know what? This serves me right. This is what the fuck I get for being extra, because you was so busy trying to chase a check, or you was so busy trying to beat Star in the ratings. And it was the 12 years off gave me time, and I could have made excuses for it. And gave me time to break myself the fuck down like I had been breaking people down that came through my morning show. I got a taste of my own shit. And I had to be big woman, put on big girl panties and suffer. And after I suffered and I stopped beating up on myself, because I beat up on myself a lot, I actually reached out to the people that I felt I had hurt the most during those radio years. And really? I apologize. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I'm like, all right, you're silently apologetic. The fuck? You put everybody else's shit out there. You got to put your apology and your sorrow out there too. And then I said, but Tarsha, don't expect people to be so forgiving. But know that you did your part and you put the apology out there. So for the most part, I think that's where the whole Miss Jones reunion apology tour came from. Yep. But even before that, I was reaching out to people. I think there's only one more person that I haven't been able to contact. I can't even say I've really, really tried, because I don't even know how to start, that I need to give a huge apology to. Mm-hmm. And once I do that, I'll feel like I did as much as I could, and God God will forgive if he hasn't already.
No, I am quite sure that God has forgiven. Jonesy, this conversation, people need to hear this. This is redemption. This is your past. Your past. Like, sometimes God is going to sit you down. Sometimes God is going to break you down. But look at what came out on the other side. Really, having this conversation that's so honest and forthcoming, and you having the clarity of thought and vision and understand that, okay, I'm going through this. And part of my healing, I hurt people.
I hurt a lot of people. Unnecessarily. Like, I feel like when God gives you that level of a platform, you have to be responsible with it. And not only did I hurt people by saying things that were maybe not true, exaggerated, maybe were true, but didn't need to be said to the world, or they hadn't told their truth themselves yet. But, we're always pushing to get that first story and that exclusive. But even by using that platform to bring soothsayers and prophets, you're not supposed to do that. You ain't supposed to be believing in nobody but God. You ain't supposed to be. Now, I believe there are people with the gift. Mm-hmm. I know my discernment with that is off, because look at the niggas I've had kids with. So I also brought soothsaying by bringing psychics on my show, which that at the time, I didn't realize I was doing damage. But in that time I was home and my health is breaking down, and you have nothing but time on your hands to say, why am I here? What's the higher meaning? Bitch, because you did all this stuff. Now, I will say this. Upon my return, I have felt the other side of a lot of the things that I did for people that I took for granted, that I didn't realize was good, was grand. And these people are reminding me now, you don't remember in 19 such and such, me and my sister were singing on the street and you bought us this, or you did. It's so everywhere I turn, I'm like, yes, I knew I wasn't that mean of a bitch. I just, had a rough patch and was scrambling, but I knew I was that artist that I always put the people first. Part of the reason why I talked the way I did on air is because I wanted the people to not feel like artists are on this pedestal. They are just as human as us. Don't be bowing down to an artist because they got a hot record. That was part of the reason that fueled my anti-artistness, maybe. But in that, I was I told you everything with Jonesy is big. It's either big good or big bad. So are the lessons and the outcomes. So now I'm seeing the people whose lives I touched for good, whose careers I've helped launch, people that they themselves may or may not remember, but I'm being reminded now. I gave Stephen A. Smith his first shot on radio.
You know, I remember Stephen A. being on your platform, like when he was a youngin', before anybody knew him to be this big guy on ESPN. Yeah. I remember Darnell Rawlings being on your show. Like you really ushered in some major talent out there.
I did a lot without even knowing what they would be. Just because I had the platform, they wanted an opportunity. I felt they had something to offer to the audience. I didn't ask for kickbacks. I didn't ask for, well, put me on your song. I did a lot of stuff. So I'm so grateful that to counter that bad portion, at least I was still pouring into people, because people remember and people will let you know, be it good or bad, if you fuck them around or if you help change their life. So I put a lot of good out too, but that, that bad stuff, I only be focusing on the bad. Like I got to still fix stuff, Prez.
Yeah, I think we all are a work in progress. But I'm gonna tell you, Jonesy, this you are now learning the meaning of life, right? This is the meaning of life. Like you have to evolve, you have to change for the good. And I'll tell you this much: it could be 50 times worse if you are sitting in your seat and you're the same person who you were 20 years ago. That would be 10 times worse, because we're supposed to evolve.
Yeah.
We really, really are. We're supposed to become better human beings. We're supposed to give back. Sharing your story, me sharing my story, our experiences, our ups, our downs, our challenges.
And open and in front of people and letting people laugh at us. You know what I mean? Or judge us.
Because it shows you're human. And it shows it's okay to go through a rough patch. It doesn't define you. What defines you is if you stay in the mud, if you give up, if you quit. That's what and I want to, because you talked about some of the good, much of the good that you did and how it comes back to you, and it got me thinking. I interviewed Envy.
I was just going there. That's crazy. I was just going there in my head. Come on.
I interviewed Envy. And I asked him, who was the most influential person in your career? And you know who he named? Tasha Jones. This is a year and a half ago. I interviewed him, and this is prior to COVID. That's why I know it's a year and a half ago. It could be even pushing 2 years. And we were sitting face to face on the campus of LIU Brooklyn. And I'm talking to him, and he essentially said something that I thought was so freaking dope. You came in, and you can correct me, you know the story better than I do. You came in to take over the morning show. I believe Joe Button was on his way out. And they were supposed to fire Envy, and I'm not sure if Michael Shawn was it. It was somebody. It was him.
It wasn't even there. It was Envy. It was Miss Info. And yeah, I think it was them.
But long story short, we know not just in radio, but in business, it's always run by regimes.
Mm-hmm.
The people who you're with, they bring you in with them, but when they leave, when they cut the head, the body goes.
Yep.
So he was telling me, or he told me, I actually have it on video, and I might edit it into this interview, because he said it was you that gave him his shot. It was you who really, really taught him what it took to become successful on morning radio. And he admired, he was like, Jonesy could talk. He was like, she didn't come super prepared, but she could take a pen and be like, this blue pen, and turn it into something that the audience was calling in about and everybody was talking like, it's, you know, I had a blue pen and this, he was like, it's an amazing ability to talk about anything and make it interesting.
The main thing with Miss Jones, what made Miss Jones probably one of the best personalities ever, she got it her own way, but ever, was that she can pull anything out of the sky, make it a topic, and make it great radio. So we could be talking about, let's say, this young lady's writing right now, right? She could make it a topic. Call us up right now, 800-585-1051. Do y'all think her pen is blue or black? Let's talk about it. The winner gets so-and-so. And everybody would call the phone lines. She was brilliant at that. She wouldn't come prepared, but she didn't need to because her mind was that great. And I was like, wow. So even now, I can be listening, driving on my way to, to work, and I could just think of something just off of that because she taught me how to think like that.
Wow.
So
I love Envy.
Yeah, like, and I'm bringing me up because your return, the reunion, how does that come? You know, I don't want to say, tell me, how did that come about? Because I know Envy was an integral part in that.
And I had not spoken to Envy since we left, or no, that's not correct. When I left and I went back to Philly and I was on Power 99, he was about to start Power 105. And we would have to do these Clear Channel conference calls with the talent. So the morning show from Miami would be on the call. The morning show from Texas would be on, wherever, we were all on the call. But me and Envy, since we knew each other, we'd be, Envy, did you hear about such, da, da, da. But that was it. And then after I left Power 99, he and I stopped speaking. And then there was a misunderstanding that I ran with the narrative in my head and made it be real. So then that justified us not speaking in my head, and justified in his head that we not speaking. So for years I was fine. I just had said to myself, these guys were not your real friends, and you have to learn that everybody you work with that makes you laugh and that comes to your wedding and that comes to your house and that your families go on vacation with are not your real friends. So I had that in my head. Imagine that type of story in your head about people that you took falls with, that you went through struggles with when the whole New York City was against you and all y'all had was the five of y'all or the three of y'all sticking together. But now you've made the story in your head that wasn't real. That was just for radio. That was just because they needed a job. So that's where I'm feeling. And then I was home, and Rob Love from Def Jam Records, he used to run he and I share a birthday. Now your birthday is the day before my birthday. That's me and you, our thing. Rob Love reached out randomly to someone from BLS and told them to get in touch with me. He was doing a pandemic birthday Zoom and he would like me to be on it. And I hadn't spoken to Rob in 12, 13 years either. But I said, it'll be good to see Rob. And I get on the Zoom. After the Zoom, Rob is like, I'm so glad you showed up. I want to interview you. And I'm like, about what? I'm not, what I'm doing is nothing. Let's just do the interview. I did the interview. And after the interview, he calls me and goes, yo, you'll never guess who called me. I said, who? He said, Envy. He saw the interview. And he was like, yo, you and Jonesy sounded good. What are y'all planning to do? Are y'all going to do a podcast together? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, Envy reached out? And he said, yeah. And I said, my suspicious mind. I leave it alone. The next day, I'm laying in bed. The phone rings, and it's one of my fellow Jack and Jill moms. And she's going, I had no idea about your past life. Because I don't sell, I stopped selling Miss Jones. So the people out here that I live around, that my kids go to school with, they had no idea that I was Miss Jones, who they listened to on their way to work throughout their life. I didn't want that connection. I didn't want the backlash. I was really mean. I didn't know who got love for Miss Jones, who don't. All I know is I don't want my kids caught up in that shit. So when she said that, I said, how do you know now? And she said, turn on the TV. DJ Envy's wife is talking about you. And she's saying how had it not been for you, her husband would not have gotten his shot in radio. So I turn it on, I listen, and I just start crying because I'm like, Envy tried to reach out 2 weeks ago. Now here his wife is. This is God talking. This is what I mean when I say God be talking. If you steady and still yourself well enough to hear, I said for the wife to be saying good stuff, that means that the husband is okay with it. Because the wife don't go against the husband. The wife would rather say nothing on TV than to go against the husband. So I said, clearly, they're still fucking with me. And I need to figure out, because I wanted to come back, provided my health, I couldn't find my way back in. So I stayed back. So then I texted Envy and said, oh my God, I had no idea. Because she was also talking about Envy's trials. I had no idea that Envy had gone through his own depression and his own suicide attempt. So for me, I'm like, fuck any beef that I thought that was in my head this was someone that even if I wasn't a friend in his mind, he was a friend in mine. And I know that dark place. And I'll be damned if, someone that was connected to me is going to go through that. So I reached out and I was more focused on him being in a better place. And I said, I'm so glad that you're in a better place. But as soon as I hit send, Jonesy, oh my God, can we talk? Blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, sure, but let's do a Zoom. And in that moment, in kicks the business portion of Jonesy's mind, where she's like, you about to have Envy, who's DJ Envy to the world, but Envy to you, who how y'all always was about getting that money. I said, bitch, get your ask together. Not your ass, ask. Wipe your tears, get on your knees, thank the creator, but get a piece of paper and a pen and write down something that you could create, something that could be a comeback, because Envy is probably going to be down with it. He just ain't got time to figure that shit out for you. So I sat there and I said, why not put the band back together? New York still don't have a Miss Jones morning show, because God loved the Breakfast Club. They ain't Jonesy in the morning. So I said, let me see what everybody else is doing. Michael Shawn had just gotten fired a week prior from his radio gig in Texas. So he was very available. Research, she and I have talked through the years, so I knew she would pretty much be on board. And then Envy was the last one. And so they were like, did you speak to Envy yet? And I'm like, no, we're Zooming tonight. And then when I told Envy the idea, he was like, I'm in. That shit is fire. And he said, because I want you to get your flowers and get back to where you belong. He's like, all this money that people are able to make now on YouTube and IG and Spotify, you were at the beginning of this shit. You were Spotify. You were the internet. You were getting calls. We were getting calls from LA behind some shit we said at 7 a.m. when LA would wake up at 10 a.m. You were so he said, I'll do whatever it takes, because I owe you that. And you didn't get a fair shot. You were like a little ahead of your time. And so that was how the idea for the Miss Jones reunion show came about. And it's on every week, Mondays on YouTube, Miss Jones Reunion. Please subscribe. It's a great show. And we bring back our favorite old morning shows. We play them, and it takes people back to a good time. Things were different, but they were good. And so now we have a lot of other things in the works. But I'll say this. If you had asked me in December 2020 if I had any plans to come back to the industry, I would have said absolutely not. I'm happy with my children, watching them thrive. I'm happy doing my little consulting gig and singing with my band, because I also started a band. I realized I missed music and singing, not the recording and touring part of the business, but the singing and touching the people in little clubs. And, Delta Sigma Theta might throw an event, ask me and my band to come perform. I missed that. So I was happy. If you had said, you'll be spending the night at Wendy Williams' house and you will become her rock and she will be leaning on you and she will need you to show up for her, I would have said, what? I haven't spoken to Wendy since her and Kevin put a hit out on me, allegedly. So many, if you had said people will want to hear your story, I would have said people forgotten. They've moved past me. Nobody cares. Like, no one wants to hear about a mean-spirited female radio chick and how, you know, she was banned from the industry. No one wants to hear that. She got what she deserved, is how that story ended. And here I am. Here I am. God is miraculous. Awesome. Oh, he's awesome. Miraculous. Because you never know. You never know. You just got to be calm enough to ebb and flow and know that what goes up does come down, but it don't have to stay down forever, nor, you know, really does it. So I'm not perfect, but I'm back. And you guys are going to be able to watch me go through this evolution. And I'm not going to be what I think I need to be for ratings or for money. I'm going to be who I'm supposed to be, raising these kings and setting an example. And I'm still going to get in that ass, but I'm not, you know, I'm going to give you a little piece of tissue to wipe your tears after.
Oh my goodness. I think even as I hear you speak, Jonesy, and I hope I am not misquoting or giving credit to someone who doesn't deserve it. But I think it's a Maya Angelou quote. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you know. But I believe she said, people don't remember what you did, but they always remember how you made them feel. And I think that is so profound, and it's such a summary of just that whole story you just told. How you made people feel, for good, for bad. You see how it all is coming back. Over the years, you've been down. Now you're on your way back, and you're seeing how you have made people feel about themselves. This is why people want to hear your story. So I know in your head, you're like, why would anybody want to hear my story? What's to talk about with me? I've been away from the scene for 12 years. But doing what you do at the level that you did it, giving the opportunities to people, I think that those feelings never leave people. And I think that is why you're embraced. That is why people are happy to see your face and to hear that voice again. And I think that if we can all just keep that in mind, like what do we do? Like, how are we making people feel? Like what is it that we can give to this world that makes, and it doesn't have to be big, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's a smile. Sometimes
it's a listening ear, just listening and letting people talk, and them feeling in that moment that what they had to say was important.
Oh my!
Because we take for granted, we're so busy. People that are doing, we're not always present to the impact that we're having. We're always on the next thought and the next win, and then I can't get comfortable here. I got to think about tomorrow's show. But for someone that listens to us or that's a consumer, getting our time, getting our advice, saying hello to their child.
Asking how you're doing.
Saying happy birthday.
Listening to the answer. Because we how you doing? And before the person even answers, we're going on with the rest of the conversation. We really didn't want to know, but that just was a
pleasantry.
Yeah. But
a pleasantry.
Jonesy, even as you're talking, and you're going to be able to kind of feel where I'm coming from with this, because as you're talking and you're like listening, you know who I thought about in this moment? who for young Shawn coming from the South Bronx, doing everything I possibly could to get in the music industry, having experiences with any and everybody who exemplified to the 10th power all of the negative things that you hear about people in the music industry, right? That was my experience. Like, I would just bump into the worst of the worst. People were damn near glorified assistants, but they were in the music industry and they couldn't give you the time of day. And I'll never forget sitting, and I think that this is what separated him. But there's a guy named Andre Harrell. And he was so wonderful and so great. And I don't care if you was an intern or if you was the president of a major corporation. He would literally sit and listen to your ideas, fully focused on you, with that Andre Harrell smile, and actually give you the time. And I don't think people understand. I'm thinking back to 25, 30 years ago almost. Andre just listening to me. I'm nobody. I don't even think I had my first industry job yet. I'm interning. And just him giving me that, it never, ever, ever went away. Yeah. And these are all things, like my grandfather used to say, and you just alluded to it. My grandfather, like, Shawn, I'm a hard-headed little boy. Shawn, learn to take good advice. It's free. It's free. And it costs people nothing. And I'm so happy to have these types of conversations because there is somebody, whether it's in our industry, which is in entertainment, or any other industry out there, and you think this is how successful people act. I gotta be mean-spirited. I have to act like I'm so busy and I don't have time for you.
I don't have time for you. And sometimes we even subconsciously convince ourselves to believe that we're so busy and we don't have time. And I'm finding that now as I'm coming back to some people that are trying to do that, they're so busy. You know what I say? Everybody makes time to go to the bathroom. So even in that time you peeing or you walk into the toilet, just text a bitch and say, I'll call you back, or not now, or Jonesy, you come with a whole lot and I don't have it for you right now. Just say something, but to not respond irks my soul because nobody, listen to me, people, nobody is that busy. People make time for the things and the people they want to make time for.
Absolutely.
And remember that. Don't lose your value or your sense of value because you deserve that time. That may not be the person for you. Go find somebody else. But when people are giving you the information and they are dropping the gems, just be quiet. Listen. You don't always got to be talking. Listen. You can always come back later with questions. Listen, which most people have a very difficult time to do. And I just want to add to that point. Speaking of, you do have time, considering this is Power Move Makers. For all of you who are convincing yourself, whether you are 16 or 60, that my dream has passed me by, I am a full-time employee, I'm a full-time student, and I don't have time to pursue the thing that I really love, and you give yourself a way out. But your mouth, you'll tell anybody who listens, I really want to do this. I just don't have time. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. If you're working a full-time job, give them their 8 hours. But there's still 16 more hours in the day. What are you doing with them? So I think that the whole concept of you have the time across the board, we have convinced ourselves that we're just too busy. You make time for the things you care most about, whether that is sleep, whether that is smoking weed, whether that, whatever it is that you care most about. You find a way.
Take inventory of your day, and you will say to yourself, you're absolutely right. Like, I have found time to visit my chick on the side. I found time to be out in the street. I found time for everything. The time is there. How do you prioritize it? It comes down to as simple as that.
And that requires discipline, which a lot of people don't have. And that's a muscle that you need to constantly be exercising in order to be able to call on it when you need it, when you're trying to achieve something. You got to have discipline. Discipline and opportunity is success.
Yes, well said. Well said. Jonesy, before I let you go, we jumped way over a question that I wanted to ask you earlier. But I just love where this conversation went. For you're synonymous. Your story, whether it is Doug Fresh, Ron G, people equate them to the beginnings of who you became. They were the catalyst in your career. But I heard you say earlier in the conversation how you just saw Doug on the street and you took a chance and went up and met him. Can you speak to anybody who is chasing a dream, whatever that dream might be? You might not be the person we know you to be today. Had you not taken advantage of one moment, Doug Fresh was on the street.
He was on this street. Biz Markie was across the street. And my fat ass was not walking across the street in Harlem traffic where, everybody, no. So, but what got me there was the loss. I was desperate. My mom had just died. My father died freshman year. So I come home from college and I have no one, no plan, no nothing except that I still want to sing. But I'm thinking now it's really not going to happen. And if it is, you're going to have to go pedal in the street and make it happen. So it so happened, Doug was there in the street. And I don't have a demo, but because I have all these years of training at the Fame High School in Syracuse, I am not afraid to sing a cappella on the street. And I don't care who's listening and who's looking like, who's that black girl singing? Like what? Because once you hear how good it sounds, you're going to sit there and be a spectator. If I don't know anything, and I spent a lifetime wondering, doubting, and questioning my singing ability because I was comparing myself to my peers, and really not even my peers. I was comparing myself unfairly to the machines behind my peers. And I've never had a big record company machine behind me. And when I did have Andre and Motown, that shit was so dysfunctional that it wasn't operating like a full functional MCA Records with Mary or Bad Boy with Faith and Puff. So I doubted my singing ability and I, quelled it. All right, I'm going to do radio and I'm going to be the best at that. If I know nothing else, I know I can sing. I sing down. And so I'm grateful that I had the heart back then, 21-year-old girl, to walk up to somebody in the street and say, I could sing, hear me out. Go for it. That's what going for it looks like.
Damn, I wish we had more time here.
We're going to have to do part two. We have to come back and do part two.
You got to promise me you'll come back.
Absolutely.
We did not even get into the story. But I love this. For anybody who's listening, listen to what she said. She said it was desperation. It was, in your case, it was true desperation. No mom, no dad.
No job, no plan.
No job, no.
And the rent, and listen, the rent in our childhood apartment where I came home from college, the rent due don't care that mommy just died. So where I'm getting money for the rent? If there is insurance or if there is, savings, it hasn't come through yet. Like I had immediate needs. Like, where am I getting money for groceries from? I literally just came home from college and I busted open all them envelopes from the funeral that people were giving to the family with low cash in it. And I kept hold of that. But that wasn't no thousands of dollars back then. It was true desperation that brings the best out of people. It's desperation that makes you say, it's sink or swim, nigga. It's showtime, nigga. It's go time, nigga. If ever you need to show off all them years of training and singing and all that, now is the time.
There you go. Whew. I can't even come. I don't know what you guys, meaning the audience, what your dream is. But you need to rewind that part right there. You need to get into desperation mode. Whatever your desperation mode looks like. You might not have to lose a parent or parents.
You might have just lost family in COVID, though. You might have lost your job. You might have lost your husband or your wife. You might have lost a child. You might have lost your way. But it's not too late. You just got to sit, reset. You do have time. You do have time. The bills will be all right. Right.
No, you
let that desperation motivate
brings
you.
Out the best in you. How
that fire. That fire.
Wow. Jonesy, where can my audience find you at?
I'm on Instagram at Miss Jones Official, MISS Jones Official. And I'm on there just about every night after 9 p.m. for Jonesin After Dark, which is just shit talking after, like, we play music. And it's a very peaceful place, though, but it's funny. And then the reunion show, my YouTube channel is Miss Jones Reunion. So there's always stuff there. Hopefully soon, you'll be seeing me and a couple of my other 90s artist friends on Versus. I hatched a plan, Prez, of a one-hit wonder Versus with 10 of us. Me, Sunshine Anderson, Vivian Green. And I'm not being disrespectful because these women have way more than one hit. I'm just sensationalizing it to make it a interesting title. And we're going to have 2 teams, 5 of us against 5 of us. That's 20 songs. That's your Versus. I'll host it and I'll sing, and yeah. So
dope. Can't wait for it.
I'm putting it in the universe. Now, Swiss and Tim, in true honesty, they have not signed on for any of this, but everybody else in the industry seems to think it's a great idea. So I'm just going to keep running with it. Thank you.
It's a dope idea. And like you said, you got to put it in the universe. So for any of you guys out there, if you have something you're working on, if you see something in your head that nobody else sees, start verbalizing.
Before you verbalize it, register it with either the Writers Guild or write that shit down or type it out and mail it to yourself and don't open it because that's your proof that it was your idea. Then go put it out into the universe.
And then put it out?
Then put it out.
Jonesy, this has been such a special episode. In true Power Move Makers fashion, you provided so much wisdom and experience and dropped so many gems. And I love the fact that you were so open and transparent with the good and the bad. Because if it, for nothing else, it helps to humanize you. And I want to leave in everybody, not just anybody, but everybody on this. We're all the same. We put on our pants one leg at a time. The people who you admire, love, look up to, they are human. If they did it, you can do it. Jonesy, thank you. I love you. And we're definitely going to do a part 2 to this. You are a true power move maker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prez. Thank you. It was an honor. And yeah, we'll do part 2. We'll save it for part 2.
What's up, guys? Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video. Truly appreciate you. If you like anything you heard here today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you know anybody that can benefit from this message, feel free to share. Peace and love.